Section 3.5, mathematical modeling and variations. In the beginning, is talking about how to draw a table based on and come up with the equation of some scatter plot or some scatter points. On the first two examples of the homework, we're going to talk about this part. Then next is when you have a formula such as y equal mx plus b or y equal kx, there is always a correlation between x and the y value. See, in this case, when you substitute the value for x to find the value of y, assume that you already have m and b. As x increase, value of y also increase. So this is called direct variations. In direct variation, y varies directly as x, and you write it as y equal kx. For instance, let's say you have distance. They have the formula, the distance formula, that the distance is speed multiplied by time, or distance is rate multiplied by time. Okay? So let's say rate is 70 miles per hour and time is 2. Then the distance would be 140 miles. Now, if either rate or time increase, let's say time changed to 4, what happened is distance also increase, since there is a direct variations. It could also be a direct variation of the speed too. So if the distance is now 90 miles times 2, you see the distance increase. So this is the direct variations. Inverse variation, always the number goes at the denominator. So for the direct variations, you always have y equal kx. And for inverse variations, you have y equal k over x. Since x is a denominator, as x increase, the value of y decrease. Or if x decrease, the value of y increase. They call this inverse variations, like this one. As the value of p increase, the value of x decrease. You also have direct variation as nth power. So the variation could be kx to power of n. And when we go through the example, then you understand this part better. All right. So, and I have some example. I just took it from the textbook. So anytime you write a formula, you always have a constant. You should always have a constant of the k. Now, in order to find the k, we should give you some values for t, like in this example for t, p, and v. You take all these numbers and plug in to find your k. When you find your k, you put it back into the equation to find the formula. All right. So now, we also have a joint variation. Joint variation has combination of more than one variables. So z varies as jointly as x and y, or is proportional to x and y. All right. The first example of the tag on the homework, we just give you some points and we ask you to kind of come up with the equations, right? So what I do is I try to find good 2 points right here. I try to find 2 good points. Like when x is 1, I draw the vertical circle. I see that y is 3.2. And when x is 5, what's the value of y? I draw the vertical line and the horizontal line, the value of y is 4. If you have coordinates of 2 points in algebra, you could find the equation of line through this formula. So you take these 2 points, one is x1, y1, the second one is x2, y2, and you plug into these equations. That give you, when you simplify cross multiply, it gives you equation of your line. So we try to have a line that best fit this one. And that's roughly the equation of that line. The same thing for the second problem too. You just pick two good points, like if x is 1, you go up to the left. If x is 1, y is 3.8, you pick another good point, like x is 5, what's the value of y? 3. And then you take this and put it into these equations. When you do that, you should come up with that equation. I didn't continue this part. I want you to practice. Okay? So if you have x1, y1, x2, y2, through this formula, you could find your equation, which is y minus y1 over y2 minus y1 is x minus x1 and x2 minus x. Now we come up with the proportions. When we say a direct proportion means y equal to kx, there is always the constant for any formula. Now, for you to find this constant or the k, we need to give you these two values. In the problem, x is 6, y is 18. These two numbers are given. So when you take those numbers and substitute here, that would give you a k. When you find your k, which is 3, you have to put that back in the equation to have this equations. So first, we give you some numbers to find the k, and then you put the k back here to find your original equations. So this is a direct proportion between y and x. This is another one, very similar to that. We give you two numbers to find your k, and then you put the k back. These problems, we have this equation, y equal kx to power of n. K and n are given in the problems. So basically, this is your equations. When you have an equation and you say x equal 2, how do you find the y value? You just take these two and you substitute for x, you raise it to the power of 2 times 7, that will give you 28. So you take each of these numbers, these are all x's, right? You take each x and substitute here, raise it to the power of 2 times 7, that gives you the y value. These problems are all very similar. See, original equation is kxn. K and n are given, so you take those two numbers. This equation is ready to accept x. Like when x is 2, what is the value of y? 8, and so on. So first, you are using these two numbers to write your general equation, and then you take x, like x equal 4, you substitute here, 4 to the power of 4, and then by 2, and so on. They all are the same here. The equation is k over x to the power of n. N is 1, k is 8. So this is your equations. So you take each number, like x equal 2, you take x equal 2 and substitute here. When you put 2 here, 8 divided by 2 is 4, y is 4. These are all very similar. Now, this one, they want us to find the actual model. Is the model y equal kx? Means is it direct variation or inverse variation? How do I know which one? First, we try this. First, we try and write it as direct variation. So we say, okay, y directly varies with x. So y equal kx. Then you take these numbers and substitute to find a k. You put a k back. Now your equation is half of x. Now this equation should work for all this. Means when you put 4, you should get half for y. When you put 4 here, we don't get half, we get 2. So this is not the right equations. On the other hand, if I write k over x and put these two to 1 and find the k, now this equation accepts all those numbers. Means when you put x equal 4 in this equation, then y is 2 over 4 or half. See? Is this? So if you're like, if you put 6 here, okay, 2 over 6 is 1/3. So this is the right equation. Same thing here for these problems, very similar. A varies directly as the square of x. Now you need to understand some of this terminology. A varies is the square of x, square of r. And there is always a k. You always have to throw that k here. Y varies inversely as a square of x. Inversely means a denominator with the square of x. This is a joint, means you have more than one variable. F varies directly as G and inversely as R2, and there's always a K here. So it would be F is K, G, R2. Directly with G, inversely with R. They all are very similar, so you should be able to read this. Sometimes they give you some numbers to find a K value, right? So like in this problem, they give you Y and X. So you write the general formula from the past, you put those two together, give you K is 30. So actual equation is 36 over X. And I show you the solution of the other ones here.